TC has had to step up as the leader of the former military comrades throughout the entire run of the show, saving Rick and Thomas repeatedly. With all the time he has dedicated to those two and their issues or companies, it's amazing he has managed to keep island hoppers afloat. Two masked men broke into the house of an elderly Army veteran in Episode 7. They presumably assumed he wouldn't cause any trouble because of his age. As a result, they were shot when he pulled a gun on them. One of them was killed by Mr. Durima, and the other man escaped. Durima desired justice because the man took off with some valuables, including something that belonged to his late wife. He had hoped to get that information from the authorities, but they were unable to track down the other robber on their own, and the dead man was of no help in identifying his associates. The daughter of Urima was also concerned that the other man would return to exact revenge for his buddy. They then turned to Juliet at that point. Juliet consented to investigate the criminals. She and Magnum made the decision to accept different cases. She was talking with the Urimas while he was meeting with a woman who was actually TC's mother, and who claimed to be looking for her son. At least that's what he was told when he accepted the job. TC and she haven't spoken in 36 years, so she wished to find him. She basically left him behind because she was battling mental illness. She's been sick for a long time. She struggled to manage being a mother and sick at the same time. It would be extremely difficult to receive assistance because no one was promoting therapy and family members frequently made excuses for what was happening. In a spiral, the worst thing they could say to people was that they could wish their problems away. That is why it took her 36 years to eventually get it right. She wanted to see TC now that she was feeling better, but she knew she couldn't just barge into his world. She no longer has that authority. Magnum was called instead. When they were saved, she saw him on the television. She wanted to reach out because she knew he was TC's buddy at the time, but she wasn't able to stand up steadily. She hoped Magnum would now deliver a message for her, because she wanted to give herself more. She desired for TC to be aware of her presence on the island. It's alright if he doesn't want to see her. She just wanted to see him. Magnum later relayed that information. He also mentioned his thoughts on the predicament. He wasn't sure what TC's mother expected of him. He believed she truly cared about TC's life. According to TC, he didn't need her in his life. It was his friends who kept nagging him to see her, even though he wanted to ignore the entire situation. They believed it would benefit him. Finally, he could express himself. They finally persuaded him to meet with her, but it didn't turn out the way they had hoped. TC was able to express his emotions in his own manner. He expressed to his mother how much it stung for her to leave him. He explained to her how his father had never been the same since she left and how he had spent his entire life shunning people out of fear of losing someone he genuinely loved. TC expressed his feelings to her. He then turned and left. He believed she forfeited the right when she decided to leave rather than get the assistance she required to stay. He didn't realize the opportunity he had until he spoke with Cade. Due to her addiction, Cade lost his own mother. He emphasized to TC that he can now meet his mother. He used to convince himself that he was fortunate not to have her around because he had heard stories about her wild days from family members. Only the woman he recently encountered was not at all like the women he had heard about. She was at ease. She was aware that she wouldn't immediately be forgiven. She was acutely conscious of both his boundaries and his feelings. As a result, Kate persuaded him that the lady was definitely worth getting to know. Magnum began assisting Juliet with her case. Because Detective Childs is an authority on engagement, they were able to determine that the necklace that was taken was a fake. Urima's daughter sold the real piece to pay for her father's cancer therapy years ago. The man who had stolen it was unaware that it was a fake before he attempted to fence the jewelry. The barrier referred to it as fake. He was wounded by the thief, and the incident infuriated him. Nixon Ho turned out to be their criminal. He spent some time in prison. He also exchanged letters with the daughter of Urima. She also requested that her brother give him an unofficial employment when he was released from jail. A few years back, Urima's son lost everything. He required money, so in order to get the proceeds from the sale of the necklace, he hired Nixon to rob his father. Until Nixon grew upset with him, he was unaware that it was a fake. Nixon arrived with a gun at their father's home. He demanded the remaining proceeds from the initial necklace's sale. So in order to find out where his sister's stash was, the brother had to contact her. And because Nixon was holding a gun to his head, he gave Nixon everything. The phone conversation aided HPD in determining what was going on. They visited Urima's residence. Nixon had a thought as they were drawing near. After knocking out the son, he forced the father to get in his vehicle and leave. so that no one would see him sneak away on foot. He was making a distraction. Magnum was the one to notice him. Nixon was eventually overthrown by the police, and the money was found. Urena was aware that the jewelry was a fake, though. He discovered that his daughter assisted him in paying his medical expenses. Then, in order to avoid making her feel terrible, he continued to went along the lie.